Hello, hello, hello. So excited to be back here with her talk show. We have Lisa in the house. We are going to be talking about everything girl. And we're going to be talking about the good girl mentality and the brainwashing that goes along with that. I am so excited to be jumping in on this. So going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, I am the host here at her talk show. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you get on that subscribe button. We are always guaranteed to have you thinking differently here about life and business. Let's
get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, for those of you already jumping on live, we love to see your beautiful faces here. If you're watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We have interviewed over 500 women on this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. Lisa is the founder and CEO of Bad Bitch Empire, a community investment platform building unapologetic worth and wealth for women. Yes, she is a former four-time USA national champion and Hall of Fame gymnast turned serial entrepreneur. What? Angel investor, venture capitalist, certified executive coach, and global speaker. She began her career at a $15 billion hedge fund, is a graduate of Yale University. What? And is on a lifelong mission to help women build unapologetic worth and wealth. Emphasis on both of those W's. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, girl, we already have a ton of people jumping on live. I so appreciate you taking some time to sit down. I love people, aka women, who understand the power and the importance of podcasting. This is how we reach the people. Agree?
Agree.
100%. So Bad Bitch Empire.
Bad Bitch Empire, building unapologetic worth and wealth for women. We've got a Bible as well that was just released that really shares the ethos of what it means to be a bad bitch, which I define as a woman who unapologetically takes charge of her body, her boundaries, and her bank account. It teaches women how to break free of good girl brainwashing, which are all the societal and media messages that train women to be subordinate, silent, play small, obedient to the status quo. And it has the consequences of good girl patterns like people pleasing, toxic perfectionism, not betting on ourselves, not taking risks, and thinking that it's safer to work for other people's dreams than to dream big and take action towards the things that we want ourselves.
Yes. And I think that's been ingrained in us, right? I mean, that's just part of society now, is you get a job and you help somebody else build wealth. So you're bringing today the topic of good girl brainwashing. I love this. I've never heard it said this way. So when I saw that, I was like, what? Yes, this is a thing. I'm assuming that maybe you were a good girl at some point. Tell us.
I've been a good girl for my entire life until recently. And I talk about it in the very beginning of my book. And really what being a good girl meant was, it was in some ways exactly what is expected of us in order to succeed at a young age. You know, I listened to authority. I listened to my coaches, my parents. I followed directions. I was a hard worker. And you do get rewarded for being a good girl early on, right? Like, for example, I got straight A's. I got gold medals. I got approval and validation. And I got into Ivy League school because I worked my ass off. What I'm saying is not that being a good girl is a bad thing, because being a good girl gets you in the door in many ways, right? We are rewarded for being that, and it gets us a good job. But there is a certain point in every woman's journey where she realizes that the good girl behaviors that may have served us early on actually become severe detriments to us as women, because that's when this obedience without question, this silence, this prioritizing other people and just doing what other people say suddenly becomes the toxic good girl patterns. And you realize that in order to be a leader, you got to go from good girl to bad bitch. And that means actually speaking up for yourself, commanding your worth, asserting your boundaries, being okay with people not liking you. Because here's the thing, when you become a bad bitch, that's when you become a leader. And people still are uncomfortable with women who know their worth, who are unwilling to tolerate disrespect, and who speak up when they don't like what they see.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I love what you're talking about as far as people pleasing. I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to females is we always want to be liked by everybody. And exactly what you're talking about, in order to step into a leadership role, you can't be liked by everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going, got it live on 2 platforms. Yeah. So, I mean, people pleasing is, I think, one of the more insidious patterns that occur to good girls. And we don't even realize how much it affects us. So, for example, yesterday I was on a call as the only female investor in a Zoom call of 35 male investors. And of course, I got a comment from, I think, 2 or 3 of the guys who said, well, I think that our investors would be offended by the name of your brand and your fund. So I think it would make them uncomfortable. And in the past, when I first launched this brand, I would have allowed that to like eat me up inside. And what I said to him, I was like, well, you love it or you hate it. If you get offended by it, then just don't invest. Then just don't join us. Okay, next, right? And it's like, even this brand, putting it out into the world, bad bitch empire, in a very still male-dominated conservative business world that doesn't like women who are irreverent to the systems that made them powerful in the first place. People get uncomfortable because I am owning the word bitch, right? And I think that there's a very interesting phenomenon that I realized in this journey of launching the Bad Bitch Business Bible and the Bad Bitch Empire, where I got a lot of, not a lot, but I would say like certainly more comments than I would have gotten if I had chosen a very conservative brand, right? And it's scary because as someone who used to be a people pleaser, you don't want to have people say negative things about you, right? Because it's like afraid, like, what if they say bad things? Like, but that's not who I am. And you feel this very tumultuous internal narrative happening. And then I realized that there's just something so powerful when you choose to stand up for what you believe in and you ruffle some feathers, right? And I chose the word bitch intentionally, and I talk about this in my book also, is that because bitch is a word that has been used to describe a woman typically who is cold or mean or aggressive or, loudmouthed or pushy. And what that actually is just a woman who knows her worth, doesn't tolerate disrespect, speaks up for herself, asserts her boundaries, walks away from disrespect because she's like, okay, on to the next. And so when people call a woman a bitch, what they're actually doing is weaponizing her power against her. Right? You're making her feel ashamed for having a voice, for having desires, for having power, for having a perspective, a strong perspective and opinion about how she wants to live her life. And then you are punishing her for having those things. And as women, we've almost internalized that to be, oh, that's a bad thing. So then we associate being a bitch as that's a bad thing because people don't like bitches. And when you meet a woman who has not only reclaimed the word bitch and saying, I'm reclaiming my power, but is also then like, I'm a bad mother effing bitch, right? People are like, I don't know what to do with a woman who knows her worth, like who cannot be swayed by my opinion when I say, I'm offended by your choice. It's like, okay, I don't like how you dress. That's unprofessional as a woman. Shouldn't you cover up? Which also, again, I also think that's part of this brand is about woman owning her sexuality and her body and being proud of everything she brings to the table, her emotions, her intuitions, like her full range and expression of being a woman. And a lot of times, like just as a woman's power is weaponized against her, a woman's sexuality is weaponized against her, right? How many times have we heard from men say, oh, she's dressing inappropriately, like she's dressing too sexy? And this is a whole nother conversation, but it's interesting because men are okay, for example, objectifying a woman's body. But the moment a woman then owns her sexiness, her beauty, now the men are angry, right? Now it's like, oh, she's showing off. She's being too sexy. It's like, well, she's just knowing her power.
Yeah. And owning her body. It's like ours.
Body, boundaries, bank account. And it's, you know, I know for a fact that if men could make the same amount of money and get the same amount of attention with their bodies in different scenarios, they would be hoeing it out like none other to get the millions, right? And there would be no moral conscience around that. But again, there's so many double standards for women, like rebellious men and men who have big failures are celebrated. Women who have the same behavior, who are audacious, daring, open about their opinions and very brash are then demonized.
Yeah. And a lot of times demonized by each other.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the other thing about, I have a whole chapter on here on the power of collaboration for women and like actually having understanding of why the competitiveness has been there in the past. And I think it's not women's fault that we have been programmed this way. This is part of the good girl brainwashing. And it is because we still live in a patriarchal world that pits women against each other, right? So when we think about business, this feeling that there was room for only one woman at the top, it's because it was true. Right? In a male-dominated corporate world, there was often a token woman that they would accept in. And that brainwashing that she got, like, if another woman comes up, she'll take my place. It's often because the men made that happen. And for the first time, as the generations have gone on, right, as women have kind of broken out of this spell and been like, this doesn't make sense. Why do we have to compete against each other? Why have we been programmed with scarcity when men have been programmed with abundance? And so I think as we move into this next wave of, call it feminism or call it collaboration, I think women are realizing that the insecurity and scarcity that's been programmed into us is what has caused the competition. And what's interesting is when you meet a woman who knows her worth, who knows the unique superpowers that she brings to the table, she stops seeing other women as competition because she's like, there's actually no one who can compete against me. There's no one who can compete against you because I'm not you, you're not me. But we believe in similar things, and there's more than enough money. There's more than enough clients. There's more than enough, audience members in the world to have your niche, to have the space and the stage for you to shine, and your shine does not detract from mine. And actually, when we come together and amplify and bring our audiences together, it's just more for all of us.
Do you feel like, I feel like everything that you're saying right now is very much the way men in business work automatically, like innately. It's almost as if there's a training that has to be done for us on how to navigate business together with a friendly competition versus like a territorial competition. Are you seeing that parallel? Like, it's almost like you're creating like a parallel world and mirroring onto, obviously we have our femininity. It's a totally different person, but there's a lot of similarities as far as we just need to be not retaught, but just taught.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a reason why it's in Bad Bitch Empire, it's unapologetic worth and wealth, because I have made a lot of money. I have lost a lot of money, right? I'm the typical entrepreneur. You're like up, down, up, down. And I think that the wealth comes and goes, but it's the steady growth and worth that I'm most proud of, right? It's when it's those almost like intangible things where it's like, how do you get confidence? How do you get optimism? How do you believe in yourself? That I think is so much more powerful than how do you make 10,000 a month? How do you go from 10,000 to $100,000 a month, right? And I think that the reprogramming has to start with self-love, unapologetic ability to look in the mirror as a woman and say, there is nothing that anybody can take away from me that I choose to have myself. Like, no one can take away my spirit. No one can take away my belief in myself. No one can take away my superpowers and my shine. And that's really the moment that abundance starts to flow, because I mean, think about even just the territorial, like I see, for example, on Instagram and social, so many accounts where women are also obsessed still with how to get a man, right? How do I get a man? It doesn't matter how successful you are in business or if you're just starting out, there's still this underlying narrative that you are incomplete as a woman if you don't find a man who chooses you. And what, how do you monitor him to make sure he doesn't cheat on you? And I'm like, honestly, you got to get to a point is that if that guy's going to cheat on you with another woman and a woman's going to take your man away from you, that is his loss.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with someone who's going to be like that anyway, but nothing has been taken away from me. Yeah. Because I have my shine, I have my superpowers, I have my attraction receiving. There's going to be, plenty of things that are coming my way. So whether we apply that to dating or whether we apply that to business or whether we apply that to, anything else in the world, I think that there needs to be this, like when I think of abundance and when I think about being a bad bitch, it's the belief that there are always new opportunities coming to you. And you just need to be open enough and believing in yourself enough to know that you deserve it. And with that, I think that that's how you start shifting the way you do business, the way you interact with men. Because I've just seen so also I'll take another example, fundraising, right? So as I'm fundraising for the Bad Bitch Empire Fund, as I've been coaching women on how to fundraise for their startups as well, to get that comment that I got yesterday from a guy who's like, we'll pick at little things and we'll start with, I think people will get offended by your name. I'm like, immediately I was just like, I don't want your money. Like in my mind, I'm like, I'm not even going to waste time on this because I don't need to convince you if you don't see it. Yeah. And I think more women need to take that sort of perspective when dealing with, let's say, misogynistic men. And that's not saying all men, but there's, we know the type who will be condescending, who will pick at little things, who will make you feel smaller as a woman, feel like you're inexperienced, feel like you're not good enough. And it's often very subliminal, right? It's not often very direct, especially these days in modern times, is to have a very clear barometer in yourself. Is like, this is just not something I'm going to deal with. I just don't want to deal with this. And I'm going to move on, and there's going to be another opportunity for me to receive someone who actually does see me fully.
Yeah, definitely. So powerful. And I think something that female entrepreneurs predominantly can really resonate with. The one thing that I want to dive a little deeper into is this, how to believe in yourself. I think there's a ton of people watching live right now. They're obviously resonating with what you're saying. The next step is like, okay, I get it. Yes. But like, how? What were some steps that you yourself have taken, or what are some steps that you bring your clients through to start to tippy toe into what that looks like to start believing in yourself, right? To go from being hyper vigilant about knowing where your man is, or, you know, territorial in the workplace or whatever it is, to shifting into I am worthy and it doesn't matter and I'm fine with or without.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big shift. Like, it's easy to say, but
Right.
that's a big shift. What are some little things that you can give some advice as far as how we can start doing that?
Yeah. So there's so many things, and almost always the answer is not outside, it is within.
Mm.
And it starts with, so the way it started for me was that I started noticing areas in my life where I felt like I wasn't showing up as the best version of myself. And so for a long time, for probably almost a decade, as I was almost like self-coaching, self-analyzing, and I would stay home on weekends and write in my journals, there was one question that I asked myself over and over again. And that question was, who is the most powerful and authentic version of me? And I would close my eyes and I would visualize that woman, that bad bitch who had this confidence, generosity, abundance, light. And she knew who she was. She knew what she wanted. She was out there kicking ass, like didn't doubt her or second guess herself. And then I would open up my eyes and I'm like, wow, I am so far from that right now. And so the first thing is always really like, who is the woman that you could be, that you can imagine? And then looking at your life at the present moment and saying, what does it take for me to start embodying that today? What's one thing I could be doing differently? What would that version of me be doing? How would that version of me handle this situation? And this is a constant iterative process because, for example, I would go into a situation and perhaps I would get reactive. And then I would reflect on it and be like, that was not the bad bitch version of me. Why did I react like that? Or why did I allow my boundaries to be crossed again? Why did I stay silent in those moments? Why didn't I say no? Why did I say yes when I wanted to say no? What part of me, what conditioning, what brainwashing within me made me feel like it was unacceptable for me to state my true desires or to be my biggest self? And a lot of times it still came down to fear of what other people thought of me, fear of people thinking I would be a bitch if I said no, if I wanted to prioritize myself, if I said, you know what, my dreams come first, if I said, this is not for me. And so I think this is really where it starts with just even that one question: who is the most authentic and powerful version of me? What does she look like? What does she wear? What does she do on a day-to-day basis? How does she interact with people? How does she feel about herself? What is her internal narrative? So start analyzing, how do you speak to yourself? Are you negative? Are you critical? Do you look in the mirror and then notice all your flaws rather than complimenting yourself, pumping yourself up? You need to become your own best friend and your hype woman, because that's how you start to have that backbone of, you know what, I got me. Like if everything else fell apart in the world, I would still trust myself. I would still have my own back. And there's nothing quite like knowing that in your deepest core that, you know, you'll be okay. And so this also goes to the money mindset stuff, where I have, again, like I've been in those places where I would make a ton of money and then I would reinvest all that money. And I love investing in like coaching programs, educational programs, like things to level up my spirit and my knowledge. And so then I would like spend. And I then like you would pivot, and then I was like, oh, this isn't working. But there's always something in me that I also write about this in my book, about the willingness to invest in yourself monetarily, because and I don't necessarily mean like buying a designer bag or something. Although if that's going to make you feel better and you're not doing it out of avoidant or like guilt spending, do it. but you are your most valuable asset. And so part of what you do when you trust yourself is that you invest in your growth, right? You invest in coaching, you invest in mentors, you invest in education, up leveling your skills. And you know that if you have your own back and you're a smart bitch, you will always be able to find a way to make money, right? Especially with the internet. Yeah. You can always find a way. So there's never a chance that you're going to go homeless, right? Absolute worst case scenario for, let's say, the majority of women who are listening to this show, you're probably not going to end up sleeping on the streets, right? Even if your bank account goes to zero, you hopefully have friends, right? Family or people who care about you who would not allow that to happen. So if that's the absolute worst case scenario, then what really do you have to lose by going after something? What someone's saying that, like, I don't like you, I don't like your brand, I don't like your product, I don't want to buy. That's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely having us really take a look inward, as far as who I love the vision that you're giving of, like, you sitting down, envisioning this bad bitch and what she looks like, and slowly kind of stepping into that. I think you get more comfortable, right? You get more comfortable with yourself, your brand, your company, your voice, with the visualizations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like this idea of, as a bad bitch empire, I think of like empress energy, like if you are the empress of your empire, also start to think about, like, does an empress ever beg? Like, does she ever beg for attention? Does she beg for financing? Does she beg for someone to respond to her? Does she get anxious if the court jester doesn't respond to her text message? And also then thinking about, how does she communicate? Is she talking all the time, or is she asking questions and gathering information? So the visualization I like to think about is like a queen or an empress who's on her throne, and you have one of her royal subjects who comes up to her and, is asking for something. And what does she do? Most of the time, she just sits there and listens. And then when she comes to her decision, she says, yes, no. Okay, and that's her answer. And so I think about, like, when I think bad bitch energy, it's kind of like a combination of that empress energy with like a modern day give no F's, like, energy of, like, get out of my way because I got an empire to build. And I've got a movement to create. And I think that if you are a woman with big dreams, if you want to build your business empire, you want to build your movement, think about what kind of energy are you going to embody as the empress of your empire?
Yeah. Because it's all different. It doesn't have to be Lisa's energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figuring out your own energy. You were talking earlier about the several pivots that you've made. And I think going through your Instagram, your website, it was very inspiring. One of the things that I am constantly reiterating to my community is the fact that it's okay to go all in on something and then pivot. I think sometimes there's a lot of hesitation with going all in on something because they feel like they're going to have to do that thing for the rest of their life. And they're like, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. And just going through your lineage in just a short amount of time that you've been on this earth, the amount of pivots that have happened, and, really seeing you go all in in so many different arenas, taking it on at 100% and then pivoting and then taking that on as 100% at 100% is such a great visual for us to see in real life as far as it being possible. Do you see that a lot in the world of entrepreneurship, of just people being hesitant to stepping into something fully? And how are you able to do it?
Yeah, I see this all the time, especially with very intelligent, smart women, high achieving women.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're perfectionists, right? If we want to do it, we want to do it excellently. And then there's always that imposter syndrome, then that fear, and then there's the fear of being constrained by your creation. And also, I think it's because we grow so quickly. If you're smart and you're growth oriented, you're like, well, what if I decide today I care about females empowerment and tomorrow I care about saving the planet, and then the next day I care about cannabis and psychedelics? Like, how do I do all of it? And I started, my first startup was a late night munchies delivery company, and delivering munchies with a bear mascot who called Foos Bear, who would deliver your late night food to college students. And then I went into helping female entrepreneurs fundraise. And then I found myself in fintech and venture capital. And obviously my brand has gone all the way over to Bad Bitch Empire, which I never, I didn't know that it was going to be that. And I think that, each time I go into things too, I still have that hesitation. I still have that fear. And what often happens for me is that there's a lot of back and forth thinking time. So, and I don't want to discount this for a lot of people. Like, give yourself space to really feel energetically that you want to do something, right? That you're not doing it because you're supposed to. Yeah. There does become a certain point where you feel like you've been thinking for so long that you're like, I need to take action. Like, it's been months. I've been thinking about this idea. I've been thinking about launching. I've been talking to my friends. I've been getting feedback. I've been doing research. And for me, there's that moment where I'm like, I am so sick and tired of thinking. I just need to move. And because I'm also know I'm a momentum person. And I think most of us are momentum people, because it's when you launch something, you get feedback, you get some positive feedback, and then that gives you a little dopamine hit to keep going, and then more people find out, and then you get more positive feedback, or you get some critical feedback, and maybe you decide, I want to iterate a little bit, but you're at least moving closer to the target of like the North Star that you have. And I had a friend once say to me, Lisa, you're so lucky that you have your purpose, that you have your mission. And I was like, that is not luck. There is nothing about luck that I didn't just wake up and be like, I am going to be in the female empowerment niche. Like, that was never a thing that I said to myself. It was, I kept doing things. I was there doing my late night munchies startup. And then I had painful experiences fundraising in Silicon Valley as a female entrepreneur. I didn't have other female entrepreneur friends, pre-Me Too, no real forums or public opportunities to share with other communities of women. And I was like, I feel so lonely and I want friends. And then I built my company, and I was just like, I want to be surrounded by women who get it. And that's when I realized I like community. I like inspiring. I like motivating. I like events. And then I realized that I was creating impact because a lot of women wanted that. And a lot of women were struggling through the same thing. And then there were lots of things also that I sacrificed by choosing to pursue this mission and this purpose, right? Because there are also so many times, by the way, that people don't see, that I have wanted to quit, that I have wanted to, in this 2.5-year process of writing the Bad Bitch Business Bible, that I was like, I don't want to do this brand. I don't want to write this book. I'm tired. And I can't empower other women when I don't even feel empowered myself. I feel like a fake. I went through a lot of really difficult personal things over the last couple years, and I couldn't talk about that, or I felt like I couldn't talk about it. So then felt like I was living this double life because I was so confident and powerful outside and was like crumbling on the inside. And I was like, I'm an imposter. Like, I'm pretending to be this confident woman, and my life is a mess. And I was like, I don't think I can be the leader of the Bad Bitch empire, because I feel like a sad bitch all the time. But I did put accountability mechanisms in place. So I also think this is very important, because there's also, I've seen an arc in my own journey. Like, in the beginning, you're very excited. And then right as you're about to launch, you're like dip. You're like, all the doubts and fears come. You're like, actually, maybe not. So a lot of us get to like 90%, right? You've convinced yourself. And then right as you're about to launch, there's that demon inside of you that says, here's if everything goes wrong, maybe you should just wait another month, you know?
Yeah.
And then a month becomes 3 months and 6 months and a year. And so then if you actually do get to the launch and you get your first critical comment, negative person, angry customer, then there's another dip. You're like, oh, you know what? Let me just throw it out the door. Everybody hates me. And then a lot of people leave at that point too. But if you keep going, then there's like that next wave that comes where you're like, okay, people are starting to pick this up. I'm starting to focus more on the positive feedback rather than the critical feedback. I'm getting okay with the fact that this is just not for certain people. And you make a conscious decision to say, I'm going to focus on the people who love me, not the people who don't. And then you start to iterate and get really, really hone in on those customers or clients or whomever you're serving, and saying, you know what, I think, and this is where it gets really interesting, I am going to actually choose to focus on a very specific niche. And I'm going to serve this specific problem. Because I will say, another big mistake that I find a lot of women entrepreneurs make when they're starting in the beginning is that they are so ambitious that they're like, I want to serve every woman. I can help every woman. And then you end up serving no one, because you don't exactly solve their issue, and they don't see the value of why exactly they should pay you. And a lot of times we do that, one, because we're ambitious, but two, because we're afraid to niche down.
Yeah.
Because we think there's not enough money there. And so what the arc that I've just shared was like, first the launch period, and then the thing that gets in your way at the launch. The post-launch period, which gets in the way when you're a people pleaser and you care about what people who are not your customer are saying. And then the third phase, which is when you finally realize it's okay for me to start building my empire with a very specific group of people that want my specific expertise.
Yeah.
And then you grow from there.
Yeah. Niching, I think, is number one. And I did that too. I don't know if you did that, but I totally did that in the beginning. I'm just like, I know I have so many tools. I can help all people. Mine wasn't even women in the beginning. I've been in the game for 10 years now, and mine was all people. And I remember being so confused by, like, why would anyone niche? I can literally help anybody. And it's definitely been a journey. It's definitely been a journey to be where I am now, and the niche that I am in now. And I totally relate to that. And to those of you listening live or on the replay who are in that scenario and maybe feeling a little bit of a poke, we were talking directly to you. So
I'm
This is
curious how you describe your dream customer.
how I describe my dream customer.
Mm,
So my background is stepping out of a narcissistic abusive relationship for 13 years.
been there.
So yeah,
Only 9 months, but been there.
so the foundation of my community is women who are stepping out of victimhood and into their power.
Hmm.
So that could be an entrepreneur or it could just be a woman, but a woman who's just stepping into her power and her voice. So again, the very same thing that you said with the Empress, I visualize us as an army of women, all on the foundation of on the ground. And each one of us is the warrior in the center. So when I'm walking in my world on a daily basis, I envision my army of women. And I tell every single one of them that they are also at the forefront of the same exact army and that we're all there for each other. It's women supporting women fully in stepping into their power.
Love it.
Yeah, definitely beautiful stuff. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you for those of you that are listening live. Lisa, if you could do us a huge favor, obviously there's a ton of people that are resonating with what you're speaking about. Tell us exactly what you do, who should be reaching out to you. Tell us about the book, who should be following you. Tell us all the things.
Yes. So you can follow everything, get on the newsletter at badbitchempire.com. You can find me on Instagram at Lisa Carmen Wang. And there are really two buckets of women that I love working with the most. Number one, on the entrepreneurial side, if you are a woman who wants to build a billion-dollar business that potentially you're looking for funding for. Let's say you are looking for angel investors, you are looking for venture capital funding, you have a plan where you're saying, I want to build a brand, I want to build a consistent business model, I want to attract customers. I work specifically with women who are looking to fundraise, looking to dream bigger, looking to put their pitch and their personal brand together in a really powerful way. And then secondly, if you are looking to build wealth through investing. So I train women on how to become angel investors, how to invest in businesses to 10x their investment portfolio, how to do it in a smart, intelligent way, to actually create a revolutionary portfolio of female-led businesses that are maximizing impact and wealth.
Very, very beautiful. And then the book, what is the book about? Who should be buying the book or Amazon?
Yeah. The Bad Bitch Business Bible is 10 commandments to take charge of your body, your boundaries, and your bank account. It helps you break free of good girl brainwashing. And it is split into 10 commandments and 3 parts: body, boundaries, and bank account. And this is for any woman who is looking to unleash her inner bad bitch, to get stronger in her self-worth, to learn how to love her body, learn how to communicate, learn how to love her voice, stop staying silent, learn how to have stronger boundaries. How do you curate your network of people around you so that they're helping you grow? And then finally, on the bank account section, how to really think about your money, how to expand your wealth container and your wealth energetics, and really learn how to collaborate with other women to make money. So this is a Bible for anyone who wants to be a badder bitch.
Awesome. And then I see on your website, the Bad Bitch Investor Bootcamp starts in like less than a month.
Yeah. So the Bad Bitch Investor Bootcamp is for women who are ready to make their money work for you. That means when you are keeping your money in a savings account, thinking that that's safe, that is the exact opposite. Your money, the way men have always made money, and there's a reason why the richest, wealthiest men are all in the investing game, is because they know investing is the most powerful generator of wealth. And for example, let's just say when Joe builds a company, right? He needs funding for his company. Who does Joe go to? He goes to Jim. He says, hey, Jim, I need money for my company. Jim sees the potential there and he says, awesome, I'll put some money in, but I got to get Tom and Bob and Bill into this deal too, because he understands that if all those guys invest, they will all make more money, right? Because you need those ideas to be funded. But Joe's like, I don't want to build the company myself. You know, I'd rather have or I already forgot Joe, Jim, Bill, they're all the same monosyllabic white male names. They know that the more men are in the game as investors, they all make more money because there's a higher likelihood of success, right? And so as women, we've been taught we have to beg for money, we have to beg. And this is really for women who are ready to put their money to work, to invest. Once you join the boot camp, you're going to learn exactly how to think about your money and your investment portfolio. And then you officially become part of our Bad Bitch Investor Network, where you'll get access to exclusive investment deals through our investment partners. This is a great place for if you're an aspiring angel investor, even if you are a founder who wants to understand the investor perspective, like what is it that we're actually looking for? Because a lot of times it's good to have both sides of those perspectives. I used to think, when I was fundraising, I never understood why I was getting no's when I got those no's. And then when I entered onto the investor side, and now I get women asking me, for money all the time. And I'm like, I really wish they would just understand what investors are looking for, because a lot of women who are fundraising and asking for money take it deeply personally when they get a rejection, because they are so in love with their mission and their purpose. They're like, but I'm helping the world, but I'm helping women's healthcare, but I'm completely creating this revolutionary thing that will uplift humanity. How can you not fund this? And from an investor perspective, you're like, how do you make money?
Yeah.
Like, where's the business model? What's your first product? What's your go-to-market? How does this scale? Who do you hire? How do you complement your skills? It's like, love your passion, but and it's not personal, right? It's just because the investor has a responsibility to return the money. So this boot camp is going to teach you all of those things, the mindset of an investor, how we do due diligence, how we spot red flags, how we're analyzing it. And you're going to get smarter as an investor, as an entrepreneur, really just as a woman who wants to do business in the world.
Beautiful. How much is that boot camp?
$2,500.
$2,500. Beautiful. Love it. Well, this has been great. Any closing thoughts, Lisa, as we wrap up?
Take action. Time to just take action. We have exactly how many days left? 67 more days left in 2023. And imagine if you made 10x the income in these last 2 months that you've made the entire year. It's possible if you take massive action. And if you want to be part of our community, I'm going to be also announcing a really exciting membership for business owners who want to start taking massive action.
It's beautiful. I love it. I hope all of you are listening intensely. To those of you that resonated with Lisa and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure to check her out at badbitchempire.com. It should be in a clickable link in the description wherever you're watching us at. I recommend you to follow her on Instagram. I know that she's in a few different places, but I followed her on Instagram. Her Instagram's lit. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure we all continue to rise. That brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us all. To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our community, Her Nation, where we uplift people, women, by having awesome conversations just like this every single day.